Okay, next assignment. We're going to be multiplying and dividing positives and negatives. So these are your notes, examples, dash notes. Okay, so we want to make our boxes. That's simple. Okay, find the product. I just need to write it on the first problem. Okay, product means multiplication. Okay, a couple things you're going to write up here. A negative times a negative equals a positive. Okay, you don't use number lines when you multiply or divide. Okay, that doesn't make any sense to use it. A positive times a negative is a negative. Okay, those two basic things. And obviously, if you have to, a positive times a positive is still a positive. Okay, find the product. That's a negative 8 and a negative 12. We put a times dot right there. And a negative times a negative is a positive, so it's positive. And then I take 8 times 12. 8 times 12 is 96. Really pretty easy. Okay, 5 times negative 4.1. So it's multiplication is the operation. A positive times a negative is a negative. Okay, so negative, and then I just take 5 times 4.1, 20.5. Okay, next one, 10, parentheses, negative 2.5. Now that is not a minus, okay? That's not a minus operator. It's a negative with the 2.5. If it was a minus, the parentheses wouldn't be there. So that means times. So it's a positive times a negative. Positive times a negative is a negative. 10 times 2.5 is 25, so negative 25. Okay, we've got fractions, negative 1/9 times negative 3/4. So it's a negative times a negative. Negative times a negative is a positive. Now you can take your calculator. 1 ABC's right here. 9 times 3 ABC 4. 1/12. Okay, positive 1/12. Now to do that without the benefit of fractions, you take 1/9 times 3/4. Timesing fractions is easy. You just times the tops, 3 times the bottoms, 36, 9 times 4. And then to reduce the fraction, reducing fractions is dividing. So look at 3's row. There's 3 is 36 in that row. Yep, there's 36. So 36 and 3 can be divided by 3. Okay. So it's going to be 1/12. Just like I got on the calculator. Okay, next up. Negative 2/11, parentheses, negative 11/2. Again, the parentheses between the number, if there's a parentheses, that means multiplication. Okay. Okay, so a negative times a negative is a positive. And then 2ABC 11 times 11 ABC 2 is 1. Now again, the reason why that happens is because 2 times 11 is 22. 11 times 2 is 22. And 22 over 20 divided by 22 is 1. Because you can reduce those by 22. It's 1/1. Okay, next one. Now we have some exponents. Negative 1.2 to the second power. So what that means is negative 1.2, negative 1.2. That's the base, that's the exponent. We multiply those together. That's what an exponent does. You just write that down, the base, negative 1.2, you write that down twice. A negative times a negative is a positive. And 1.2 times 1.2 is 1.44. Okay, next problem. 3/4 to the second power. Okay, you write your fraction out twice. That's your base. Times. Okay. Again, it's easy to times fractions. A positive times a positive, so we know a positive. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16. Positive 9 over 16. Okay, next one I have negative 2/5 to the power of 2. So the base exponent, so I go negative 2/5, negative 2/5. That's timesing. A negative times a negative is a positive. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 5 is 25. Once I've established that the answer is positive, I can forget about the negatives and just do basic math. Okay? 2 times 2, 5 times 5. Okay. All right, next page. Okay, find the quotient. Quotient just means you're dividing. It's the same rules as multiplication. Okay? A negative divided by a negative is a positive. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. It's the same rules as you use for multiplication. Okay, negative divided by a positive is a negative. 84 divided by 14 is 6, so that would be negative 6. Okay, 63, underline. Underline means division, divided by negative 21. Positive divided by negative is a negative. And when we divide this, we have to divide the top by the bottom. 3, so negative 3. Negative 8.1 divided by 9. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. 8.1 divided by 9 is 0.9, so negative 0.9. 7.5 divided by negative 0.3. A positive divided by a negative is a negative. And 7.5 divided by 0.3 is 25, so negative 25. Okay, fractions, it's okay. If you have a fraction, you know how to utilize your calculator. Negative divided by negative is a positive. Then I take 5 divided by 5 over 3. 5 ABC 3. I got 3, so it'd be positive 3. Now to get that without using the fraction, you would put your 5. The 5 here would go over 1. And then I would actually switch the division to times, and I would flip this upside down, so it's 3 over 5. Okay? So 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 5 is 5. And then 15 divided by 5 is 3. Okay? That's how that works. That's how you divide fractions. Make that into a fraction, putting it over 1, change that to a multiplication problem, and flip that. Okay? Multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms, 3. Okay, next one. Negative 12 over 13 divided by positive 12 over 13. So you have a negative and a positive, that's a negative. Okay. And I go 12 ABC 13 divided by 12 ABC 13. I'm going to get 1 because anytime I divide two of the same thing, the quotient is 1. So negative 1. Now to get that without a calculator, you go 12 over 13, change that to times, you'd flip that to 13 over 12. So 12 times 13 is 156, and 13 times 12 is 156. And then we divide those and it's 1. Okay? Anything divided by itself is 1. Okay, the most challenging problems will be on the next part, okay? You got to kind of follow what I'm saying here. You have negative 3a minus 4b, and you're given, these are variables, a and b. They're letters that represent numbers. Now, we are given replacements. A is negative 6. B is 1 over 4. Remember, you have a calculator that does fractions. C is 16. Now, when I know what number goes in for the letters, this is what I do. I put parentheses around just the letters, and then I need to know the operations within the problem. So between 3 and A would be a multiplication sign, because there's no sign, so it's multiplication. Between A and 4 would be it's a minus. I don't like minuses. If you have a minus, make it plus negative. Okay? Between 4 and B is times. So after you parenthesize them, make sure you know the operation between the number and the variables. Okay? Now, put the numbers where they go. So you have negative 3 times, and then A, you're going to put negative 6. Plus negative 4 times B, B is 1/4. And we don't have a C in the problem, so 16 doesn't matter. Now, after those have been replaced, you have please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Now you have 2 parentheses, but there's just one number inside there and just one number inside here. So the P we don't have to worry about. Now there's 2 numbers, but it's a fraction. That's a single number, okay? So parentheses we don't worry about. There are parentheses, but each parentheses contains just one number. There will be no exponents. Multiplication, you bet. You got dots, so circle the dots, what you're multiplying. Negative 3 times negative 6, it's a negative times a negative, so that's a positive, and that's 18. Plus. And then I come over here, I take negative 4 times 1/4. Okay? It's a negative times a positive, so it's a negative. And I take 4 times 1, ABC 4. I got 1. Okay? There is no division. Okay? Addition. Okay? We have addition. We have 18 plus negative 1. So now I can go to my number line. If I'm at 18 and I add negative 1, that means I go 1 to the left. Negative 1. That would take me to 17. And we always get rid of the subtraction, so you won't have to worry about that. Okay? Next problem. Negative 3 ABC. A is the same numbers unless I tell you differently. A is negative 6. B is 1/4. C is 16. So again, I need to parenthesize the letters because they need to come out when I have numbers to put in. Okay? Between the 3 and the A would be times, the A and the B would be times, the B and the C would be times. Okay? So you have negative 3 times parentheses A, I would put negative 6 in for A. And then B, I would put 1/4 in for B. And then C, I would put 16 in for C. So, now I know my operations. We've replaced them. Now I use order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You can get rid of the E. Again, we have parentheses, but each parentheses just contains one term. There's no operation really within the parentheses. You could divide 1 by 4, but that's really not going to do you that much good. Okay, if you wanted to, you could, but so we'll skip that part. Multiplication, well, I have here, here, here. It's all multiplication, so I circle the whole problem. A negative times a negative is a positive, then a positive times a positive is a positive, then positive times positive is a positive. So that's going to be a positive answer. Now we also know it's going to be positive because there's 2 negatives. The 2 negatives cancel each other out in multiplication. Okay, and there's no other negatives to turn it back to negative. So I'm just going to figure out the product. 3 times 6 times 1 ABC 4 times 16. I got 72. And there's no division, there's no addition, there's no subtraction. 72 is our answer. Okay, let's get the boxes on the next one. We have 2A divided by negative 3c. A is negative 6, B is 1/4, C is 16. Okay, parenthesize your variables because they need to come out. Now put operators between the numbers and the variables. 2 and A is times. A and negative 3 we have divided by. Negative 3 and C we have times. Okay. So 2 times, and you can make a parentheses within a parentheses. It works. Okay. A negative 6 divided by negative 3 times you just write it all the same except the numbers replace the variables. Okay, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay, parentheses, well again you have parentheses but there's one number there. There's one number here, one number here. Okay, each parentheses has just one number inside. Now technically you could times that, but so forth. Okay, forget about the exponents. Now, multiplication. There's a dot there, and there's a dot there. So we need to multiply, okay? So 2 positive times a negative is a negative. 2 times 6 is 12. Now, if that positive negative thing's confusing, you can use the negative sign on your calculator on these. Negative 3 times 16, it's going to be a negative 48. So multiplication's done. Now we have division. We need to divide negative 12 by negative 48. 0.25. Once I'm at one single number, that's the end of the problem. Okay? We wouldn't have to do any adding or subtracting. Okay, next one. 16b minus 3c. A is negative 6, B is 1/4, C is 16. Parenthesize, and now know your operations. 16 and B is multiplication, B and 3 is subtraction. If we have subtraction, I would suggest you make it plus negative 3. And 3 and C is multiplication. So after you parenthesize, you have to know what operations you have in the problem between every number and every letter. 16 times B, put 1/4 in, plus negative 3, C we put 16 in. So now I'm ready. After I've replaced the variables, I've got please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Now the parentheses I cross out, there are parentheses, but that just has 1/4 in there, and that has just 16. There's no operation within the parentheses to do. It's just one thing, okay? So leave it. No exponents, multiplication. Yeah, the dots mean multiplication here and here. So I take 16 times 1/4. It's 4. Again, without the calculator, you'd put 16 over 1 times 1 over 4. 16 times 1 is 16. 1 times 4 is 4. And then 16 divided by 4 is 4. And then negative times a positive is a negative. 3 times 16 is 48. Multiplication's done. Now there is no division. We do have addition. Okay, 4 plus negative 48. We'd start at 4 and we'd go 48 units to the left. That's a long way on a number line, so we're just going to go calculator. 4 plus negative 48, negative 44. So remember, write the problem down, parenthesize your variables, and put operators between every number, every variable. Minus goes plus negative. Then you follow the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Okay, square roots I've already taught. Square root of 36. What times itself is 36? Okay. Well, if you use your multiplication chart, see this row of diagonals here? 36 is there. Okay, that's 6 times 6. Those are all numbers that we know the square root of right away just by looking. 16, 4, 4. If I get 169, that'd be 13, 13. So the answer to the square root of 36 is 6, because it's 6 times 6. Okay, negative square root of 49. You drop the negative and then look up 49. Here's 49, 7, 7, so negative 7 is the answer. Square root of 16 over 25. Well, if it's fraction, it's going to be a fraction for an answer. So 16's here, that's 4, 4. So it would be 4 on top. 25 is here. 25, that would be 5, 5. So it would be 4/5. Negative square root of 4 over 9. So the negative is dropped. And 4, you got 2, 2. So it would be 2. And then 9, 3, 3. So negative 2/3. Okay, now you have a plus negative sign. You just drop the sign. Just drop, it could be positive. That means positive or negative. Just drop whatever sign's there. Now, decimal, we're going to need to use our calculator. Remember how to do this. You go second, and then the key next to the 7, 0.16, and that's 0.4. Because if I take 0.4 times itself, that ends up back at 0.16. Okay, then positive, negative, 6.4. Drop the positive, negative, and then find the square root of 6.4. So second square root, 6.4. Okay, here's how we do this. When we get that's an irrational number, meaning it just goes on forever. I want that rounded to 2 decimal places, so you got 2.5 for sure. And then the next digit's a 2, but there's a 9 after it. 9's bigger than 5, so that'll go up to 3, 2.53. Okay, and there's your assignment right there in the textbook. Again, watch out for these. Parenthesize the variables, put operation signs like a dots, and any minuses go plus negative, and then run your P, excuse my dear Aunt Sally.